Assalamu alaikum dear students, I hope you are all fine. Today we will understand an important concept in education, which is assessment in the higher education teaching. Dear students, first let us look at the meaning of the word. The term assessment comes from the Latin word assedere, which means to sit beside. In education, this meaning is very significant. It tells us that assessment is not simply about judging students, instead, it means working closely with learners, observing their progress, and helping them improve their learning. In simple terms, assessment is the process of understanding the performance or condition of something through observation and measurement. In educational settings, it mainly refers to measuring students' learning, knowledge, skills, and progress. Assessment is not a one-time activity, it is an ongoing and interactive process that happens throughout the teaching and learning process. Usually two parties are involved in assessment. The first is the assessor. The assessor is the person who evaluates performance based on defined standards or criteria. In schools and universities, the assessor is usually the teacher, lecturer, or examiner. The second is the assessee. The assessee is the person whose performance is being evaluated, which is usually the student or learner. Let us understand this with a simple example. Suppose a teacher teaches a lesson in class and then asks students to complete a short assignment or quiz. The teacher reviews the answers and compares them with the expected learning outcomes. In this situation, the teacher acts as the assessor and the students acts as a assessee. Assessment can take many forms. It may include tests, quizzes, assignments, presentations, projects, and classroom participations. Through assessment, teachers can understand how much students have learned, and students can also identify their strengths and areas that need improvement. Therefore, assessment plays a very important role in improving both teaching and learning. Now in this slide, we will discuss the broader meaning of assessment in education. In the broadest sense, assessment is concerned with students' progress and achievement. It helps teachers understand how much students are learning and how their abilities are developing over time. Assessment is not only about giving exams or assigning grades. Instead, it is a systematic process of collecting and using information about students' learning. According to researchers Harlan, Gibbs, Broadfoot, and Nuttall in 1992, assessment can be defined as a process of gathering, interpreting, recording, and using information about students' responses. This means that teachers observe how students respond to different learning activities such as class discussions, assignments, projects, or tests, and then analyze this information to understand their learning progress. Assessment also involves both qualitative and quantitative data. Quantitative data refers to numerical information such as test scores, marks, or grades. Qualitative data refers to descriptive information such as students' behavior, participation, creativity, and problem-solving abilities. By combining both types of data, teacher can better understand what a student can do and how much knowledge or skill the student possesses. Another important definition was provided by the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment in 2004. According to this definition, assessment is the process of gathering, recording, interpreting, using, and communicating information about the student's progress and achievement during the development of knowledge, concepts, skills, and attitudes. This definition highlights an important point. Assessment does not only measure knowledge, but it also evaluates skills, concepts, and attitudes that students develop during the learning process. For example, when a teacher asks students to give a presentation, write an assignment, or participate in group work, the teacher is assessing not only their knowledge but also their communication skills, critical thinking, and collaboration abilities. Therefore, assessment plays a very important role in improving teaching and learning because it helps teachers identify students' strengths, weaknesses, and learning needs. Now in this slide, we will further understand the concept of assessment and its broader role in education. Assessment is often misunderstood as simply testing or giving examinations. However, in reality, assessment is much more than testing. Assessment is actually an ongoing and continuous process. It includes many formal and informal activities that teachers use to monitor and improve both teaching and learning. For example, formal assessment activities may include tests, quizzes, assignments, and examinations. At the same time, informal assessment may involve classroom discussions, observations, group work, presentations, and classroom participation. All these activities help teachers understand how well students are learning and where improvement is needed. Another important aspect of assessment is that it involves the interpretation of measurement data. According to Murray Print in 1993, assessment involves making sense of data collected about students' performance. In other words, teachers do not only collect scores or marks, they also analyze and interpret this information to understand students' strengths and weaknesses. For example, if a teacher notices that many students performed poorly in a particular topic in a test, this information helps the teacher report to students. So assessment is therefore not just about measuring learning, it is also about improving learning. A similar idea was presented by the American Association of Higher Education, which defined assessment as a systematic process of looking at student achievement within and across by gathering, interpreting, and using information about student learning for educational improvement. This definition highlights three key actions in assessment. First, gathering information about student learning. Second, interpreting or analyzing that information. And third, using the results to improve teaching and learning. Therefore, assessment plays an important role in enhancing educational quality because it helps teachers make informed decisions and support students in achieving better learning outcomes. Dear students, now in this slide we will understand why assessment is so important in the learning process. According to Brown and Knight 1994, assessment is at the heart of students' experience. This statement highlights the central role of assessment in education. Assessment is not just something that happens at the end of the course, instead, it shapes the entire learning experience of students. For example, when students know that they will be assessed through projects, presentations, or critical thinking tasks, they focus more on understanding concepts and developing skills. But if assessment only focuses on memorization through written exams, students may focus mainly on rote learning. Another important statement was given by Brown, Bull, and Pendlebury in 1997. They said, if you want to change student learning, then change the method of assessment. This means that the way we assess students strongly influences how they learn. For instance, if teachers design assessments that require analysis, problem solving, collaboration, and creativity, students will develop higher order thinking skills. However, if assessments only measure recall information, students may limit their learning to memorizing facts. Therefore, assessment is not only a tool for measuring learning, but it is also a powerful tool for shaping and improving learning. In conclusion, effective assessment helps create meaningful learning experiences and better educational outcomes for students. Thank you.